You keep talking about the tell the story pillar, but you're not an example. Like, getting up and preaching every week is kind of a cop-out. So I was so busy with the church and so busy as a dad and as a husband that I didn't have any consistent friends that weren't believers.
Welcome to Jesus in the Upper Left, where we're talking about gospel multiplication in the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, welcome back into Jesus in the Upper Left. It's really good to be with you. Thanks for listening in. My name's Tim Osborne.
Hey, I'm Gabe Kolstad. It's good to be back with you guys, too.
And if you've been listening regularly and paying close attention, the person that we have on, the leader that we're really glad to welcome in again, was here last time, and that's because we're doing a part B. And if you're new to listening, you'll pick this up, but we just love to have leaders on in the Portland metro area or leaders outside the region who have great insight and input. And we don't heavily plan this. And so as we got into conversation with Pastor Matt Bowen from Emmaus Church on the west side of Portland, Beaverton area, just got into the story that God's been writing in the ministry that he's been a part of. And so if you didn't listen to that one, go back and listen to it, but it's great. And we didn't finish it all. So we're picking this up basically for part two, part B. And Matt, thanks for taking extra time and joining us again. And we want to pick up kind of at the birth of the new life of what is now Emmaus. And so thanks for everything that you shared earlier. And thanks for picking us up again here. Welcome back in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm honored. So, I had the privilege of almost getting to plant the same church twice, but it really wasn't the same church. COVID changed it, and so did some structural changes to the congregation, the model. And so by the time we had left the Colossae story had ended, we were starting really fresh in some ways, and also starting with baggage, which there was a fresh element of a lot of people were coming out of COVID. And our first Sunday, there were people that we had not seen ever before from Colossae. And so that was interesting. Our first Sunday was also our first kind of, we were homeless really in terms of a location. We had planted initially a Colossae Beaverton and a local high school, Beaverton High School, principal, Ann, failing to remember her last name, but Ann is a Catholic lady. I've said Catholic sister to a couple of people, and they're like, so the nun was the principal? And I'm like, no, sorry, like, she's the sister of the Lord. No,
there you go.
It's a public high school. It's not run by nuns. No. And this is,
that you know of, maybe, but you don't know.
She had a vision for partnership, and so did we. And we kind of said, hey, if your community isn't better by our meeting in your building within the first 6 months, we don't deserve to be a church in this city. And so we got to have, I think, a really rich partnership until COVID just said, nope, not anymore. Yeah. And the school district sent everybody any extra, any renters packing. And so at this point we're homeless and we're meeting in a dog hotel with an event space attached to it. And it's kind of a wild first couple months. And meanwhile, we were working out a lease situation with Westside Christian High School. We had kind of worked out this thing with Manor House, who had been renting there for a pretty considerable rent. And they took over the old Colossae Tigard rent. So they went up in pay, and we ended up paying about $10,000 less than they were paying a month for the same space. I don't know. I hope nobody from Manor House is listening to this podcast, but no, we told them all about it. We were transparent at the time, and the Lord was just favorable, and it was a good place for us to kind of have some wandering years. Westside Christian High School was accommodating, and we ended up officing out of the back of it, but we knew as a leadership team that it wasn't the long-term home. It wasn't really connected to a neighborhood. Kind of a bubble, honestly, removed a little bit from the world, and we wanted to be a presence in a neighborhood, and felt like that was what God had had planned for us. And so we just waited and prayed and spent the first few years really focused on, probably 3.5 years, just trying to focus on focus on embodiment of the things that we valued, our pillars of walking together and following Jesus and telling the story. And it felt like it was an important set of tests of will we focus more on people? Will we focus more on presence rather than program or even reputation at that point? Like I was not interested at all in trying to like manage image for what had happened with Colossae. It just there were hurt people who needed to be shepherded and discipled, and there were it was a good season of growth for us, and the first priorities really were from the learnings at Colossae. Tell me if you want me to stop. I'm just kind of recounting where we were at. Anything you want to pause on related to buildings at that point? Or
I was about to jump in and ask if you'd share your values, because you talk so much about your values, without even saying them, and I could have guessed what they were, which I think is really cool. So can you say those again? Was it 3 values that you have?
And Matt, can you when you say it, will you also tell us like how you formed them too? Because in going through planting within a larger kind of ministry model, and then planting a new thing, like you said, like planting the same church twice. Like, how did you? Were those transferred in? Did you like get them through the process? Like, I think that'd be helpful too.
Yeah, no, it was really just kind of this. As a church was falling apart around me, one of the stories that has just almost always been formative for me has been that story in Luke 24, the Emmaus Road story, the encounter with Jesus at the table. It's so instructive. It's so rich theologically, and it's so rich at a discipleship level. And I've always been attracted to just a grounding story for a congregation that's rooted in the scriptures. It just gives some orientation. A church can be oriented by a personality up front. It can be oriented to a shared passion. And to me, there's just a lot of safety in going like, let's orient around the text of scripture. I'm a Bible nerd through and through, but I'm also like, I'm just really attracted to the Gospels and the way that Jesus helps us be oriented to the kingdom and his mission. And so that story just kept surfacing in my heart as we were praying. And I remember taking a stab with our team going like, we're talking about, what do we name this? And I go, guys, I kind of think it's Emmaus. And let me tell you why. And I was waiting for pushback from everybody. Right? I was trying to like hold it lightly. And I just kind of walked through like these disciples getting completely disillusioned. They thought the kingdom was going to work a certain way. And then Jesus got killed. And it resonated with our own experience. We thought this multiplication movement thing was going to work out. We thought the relationships that we so cherished were going to be enduring, and instead, like I hesitate to say it compares to the cross, but it contained a lot of deaths, and so there was this crucifixion of a dream. There was this kind of death to how we thought things were going to go. But God was inexplicably in it and working, and there was a lot of inexplicable unity. There was a lot of inexplicable kind of resolve to see a gospel community come through this, and there's just a lot there. It was evident God was working, and so the idea was like Jesus meets us sometimes on our way away from him, sometimes on our way of just kind of throwing in the towel and going like, I don't even know about God anymore, or I don't know about the church anymore. And that sense of disillusionment and maybe leaving behind our dreams doesn't mean Jesus is leaving us behind. Like he wants to actually meet us in those places of pain and darkness and disillusionment. And it also kind of maps on our culture, like Western, like on one hand, like post-Christendom, but also like now in this almost post-secular West, where the West thought life was going to turn out, like the kingdom without the king. It was going to all be awesome. It's not. Like, we've chased the secular gods of sex, money, and power, or whatever, and people still aren't happy. And so I think it's a story that maps sociologically onto our secular context, and it mapped really, really meaningfully into our own ecclesial context. And so when Jesus encounters them, at the table, as he breaks the bread, and this second Eucharist moment in Luke, and they're like, "That's Jesus." He then sends them back out. I mean, he actually doesn't even do it. They intuitively run back with good news, right? Because they've met Jesus. And so these elements of walking together in community, where Jesus interprets the scriptures to us, even though we're like, don't get it, encountering Jesus, following Jesus, right? Being formed by being with Jesus to be like him, the formation piece, that there's a transformation and a renewal of mind that's happening. But then there's also this missional piece, this sending, this go tell the story, go tell the story and live the story. I mean, these are pretty much any evangelical-ish church contains these three values on some level, right? It's just kind of Christianity, right? When I said to people when we were first planting, like what the vision is, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's to be Christians. Like, well, what's the vision? I don't know. Like, I think it's to be Christian. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to be a Christian in isolation or without being formed and transformed or without mission on some level. And so those three elements or pillars just became the kind of orienting values that are kind of just emerge naturally out of that story, but are also kind of the marching orders for everything we do. It's like if you're, if you want to put something on the calendar here, it's got to make sense. It's either got to help people move toward community or move towards this formation by the Spirit and the likeness of Jesus, or it's got to mobilize us towards mission, either telling good news or embodying good news in action. So that's
do you get Emmaus is familiar to us, but I would imagine you have people ask, like, why do you call that, or what is this? And
all the time.
And then you get to tell the story.
What's Emmaus? We traded in one hard to spell name for another hard to spell name. That's like, I didn't learn my lesson. We get that question. And so it's actually really fun. This is funny. My wife works at an elementary school, and she has, I think she's one of like maybe two Christians in the school. I'm not totally sure, but it's a low number. And a couple of pretty, fairly adamant, like I want to hesitate to call them rejectors of Jesus, because I don't know that that's where they're at. They have not said they're Christians, and I think there's some elements of their life that they would say, like, pretty vehemently, I'm not with a lot of what the church represents, and they've been hurt and all those kinds of things, but they're pretty well de-churched if they had any churching. But they love my wife, and they're really enamored with the authenticity of her faith. And one day they had asked her about our church and its name, and she had gone to lunch and come back, and the two of them had found a Bible online, read the story, and then they were acting out the road to Emmaus. They're like, we're on the road to Emmaus. Like, they're just being goofy, like, people. And my wife's like, these two people, like, I mean, and she loves them both dearly, and like we've shared some life with them. So I don't mean it to be critical of them. I just mean to say these are people who would not normally ever open a Bible.
Right.
Or like acting out the road to Emmaus because it's such an odd story. And it's like, but it was this cool moment where they're like, I get what you guys are about. Like, that's cool that this is what you're about. Like, I don't know what God's doing in your life, but I love that.
And as you say that, what comes to mind is all of the effort and creativity that we've put into collectively, we Christians in the church in the West, in coming up with narratives and images and symbols to represent our three priority vision that you just said. Most churches have this, and there it is, right in the Bible. And so, I feel like I just wasted a lot of time, like 20 years ago.
No, it's so good, Tim. It's like we're not that creative.
Right. I'm not, for sure.
Like I don't know that we should be that creative.
What about like a triangle? What about 3 overlapping circles? What if we did that? Could that be could we use that in our logo somehow? So all good stuff. Yeah.
And I mean, I had been a part of trying to rework vision at, at an older, longer established church. And it was always a headache. And it was always like, there's so many opinions and so many objections to, we should frame it this way or this way or this way. And, as I sat with our team and said, I think this is who we are, here's the story. It's like every single person just went, yep, that's it. That marks it. And it was like this moment where I think the Lord just said, be free to stop thinking about this now.
Yeah.
Just go. Go do it.
What a great moment. I'm sure that was, I don't want to be too dramatic, but it sounds like some of what God was doing in this new Emmaus Church was, you bonded through some very difficult, you said, there was a lot of death of relationship and hope and memory and plans and those kinds of things. And so to be bonded together through some trying circumstances, in addition to COVID, and then to have a moment where you can't, those are really moments that on a human level, we put a lot of effort into arriving there as a team and orchestrating all the plans. And so just to kind of have a spirit moment of, nope, we know this is us. This is, all right, we just finished that planning meeting in record time and we can go to lunch early. And
totally. So that was what I preached Easter Sunday that week, essentially, and then we kind of teased it out over the next few weeks, and we revisit every year. And I mean, literally, it's just it bleeds through everything we do. We're not very complicated. Our calendar's not extra busy. We really do community groups. That's our main program outside of the liturgy of Sunday, and everything else kind of lives within that matrix. How is this helping people? We have a couple Bible studies, but again, that's that part of follow Jesus thing, and run Alpha. That's part of tell the story. We do some city engagement stuff and try to, have partnerships with safe families and some other things that are just ways of embodying this gospel that we believe. So
you're not currently in Westside Christian anymore, the high school. So walk us through that journey.
Yeah. Well, so it's kind of cool. This place where we were officing, they said, well, we got this big grant and we're going to turn it into some kind of maker space, and you have until a couple months. And then it ended up being a year. And so we knew we had this deadline and we needed to create some landing spot for our team. And I had met Ken Weitzma at something years ago and found out that he had been made the interim pastor of this Methodist church. And we're not Methodists, we're a non-denom crew with a traditional sex ethic and, some things that don't quite fit a Methodist, a United Methodist bill. I was a little nervous about where's this going to go? And we're compassionate, and I think we're a pretty kind bunch. So I think, we're not derisive of people and different lifestyles, but there's a discipleship call for everybody to, I think it's good news that that all of us bring our sexuality under the authority of Jesus, but me too, and every bit of us. But so I kind of, with some hesitation, called Ken and said, hey, we have a common friend and blah, blah, blah. Can I just buy a lunch? And I'd love to hear your story. I know you were at Village Baptist for a while, or Village Church for a bit. And I don't know what happened there, but we're in the area and I'd love to connect. And then just asked, would you ever be interested in renting office space to us? And he said, absolutely. and said, so we moved in May of 2024.
Wow.
And started painting immediately. And then I think our elder team had been praying that we were praying specifically for a couple things. We saw this building as kind of the location we had been wanting to be for years, like this zone. There had been another failed kind of attempt with another church a few blocks away that was dying, and we went down a road of potential adoption, and there was somebody that outvoted their leadership team, and it fell apart or whatever. But we knew we wanted to be in the like central Beaverton area, and it's just kind of the heart of the West Side in a lot of ways. And so, where was I going? Oh, so we were just praying that like we could move in as offices, and that they would actually initiate a conversation around us renting their sanctuary space and kids space. And so just so that we didn't kind of come in, we didn't want to be grabby, you know.
Wait, that was your prayer?
Yeah.
That they would initiate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
They wrote it real big on their whiteboard though, so it was
God.
Yeah. And it was like, because did you ever watch the movie Three Amigos?
Yeah.
So there's this line where, like, right before the big battle scene with El Guapo, one of the kids says to Chevy Chase's character, says, "Dusty, when you're dead, can I have your watch?" And I always feel like I'm that kid to every pastor of a church that is, like, not doing great. Like, every time I'm like, hey, when you're dead, can I have your building? It's kind of a gross feeling, but it's also like, I felt like the responsible thing to be doing for our congregation is like, I got to be out there asking like, hey, I don't know what God's up to, but like we're thriving and, or like, at least, you know, we're growing and they're healthy and we have young families and a boatload of babies. And so like when we came here, the kids classes hadn't been used in like a decade, I think. Wow. So I'm not sure if that's accurate. At least 5 years, but I think longer. And so we were aware of like it's just an older congregation that had definitely shrunk over the years, and we just wanted to be sensitive and thoughtful. And so as we were painting, like I think we were on like day 2 of painting, Ken popped up and said, "Hey, whenever you're ready to have a conversation about the sanctuary, let me know." And I like put down my paintbrush. I'm going to buy you coffee right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I like texted our elder team. I was like, well, they did it. They asked us.
That's awesome.
So, and then we ended up moving in September. So we took the summer to just get kids space ready and get our congregation ready for a move. And we had been meeting at 10, and in order to make it work with the Methodist congregation, we had to move to 9. That hurt us. Like we lost some families with the move up the freeway. We lost some families with the move to 9 a.m. And then we gained families because we moved into the neighborhood. And then, you know, so there's that. And even when we started at Westside, this is like the inside baseball of like the cold Enneagram 5 way of thinking about life. But I was thinking, you know, about, okay, we want to move from Tigard back to Beaverton. And I thought we're probably going to need about 3 years to have enough people that we can lose people on that move. You know, like that's kind of the math I was doing of like, well, we're probably going to need enough time to gain enough people so that when we lose them, we can be okay. Because you just know. And I hate that, because like the pastor part of me is like, well, let's just pursue people. But then there's like the part of you that just knows, like with every change, people just kind of they're
natural.
It's natural. So it was just interesting looking back and going like, yeah, it's actually kind of what happened. That's kind of wild. But the majority of everybody stayed with us, and that was cool. And the majority of our people aren't necessarily tied to the Colossae story. You know, we have some pretty OG Beaverton folks and some long time Tigard folks, but then a lot of folks, probably 2/3 that are probably new to Emmaus. and this is their church. So they came during the years at the school or the Christian school or here.
So Matt,
So
just
at
a
this point, you're like fully maximizing that space there. Like you're using the whole thing.
Yeah, we use the whole thing during our gathering.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a balcony space that we haven't opened up because it doesn't feel super great up there. But we'll just, when we need to, we just add more chairs in the back. One of the people in our congregation is a professional like architectural designer, and like when we moved in, she put together some like there's a professional word for it, and I don't remember what it is, but she made a design for the entryway and the space that we do hospitality in at the back of the sanctuary. And it took about a year to convince the folks who own the building that like we should do this. And we were like, I think we were willing to pay, but it ended up not mattering because somebody in their congregation saw the plans and just said, yeah, I'll throw $100,000 at it and we're just going to do it.
Great.
whoa.
And so that just happened at Christmas time, and so there's been some refresh. So we upgraded their kids spaces, and then they did some work on. And there's more work to do. It's an old building with deferred maintenance, but it's got really cool old mid-century modern bones, and like there's a lot to be done. But and we've said we'd love to buy the building if it becomes available. But right now we're just trying to do the loving, faithful, good neighbor dance of just going like, we want to be a plus to you, but we also like need all of the room and more time. So it's a dance. Yeah.
But
so
I've driven by that building so many times. I've been in this community forever, and so you're not actually far from where I'm at right now. And driven by that building so many times, and it's fun to think what Jesus is doing in his world with just bringing life everywhere. It's like because you guys birthed on Easter Sunday, right? So the whole thing's life, and you can see life even in that move, because I've thought of that building a million times. Like I wonder what's up with this building. Is anything happening here? I didn't know. And what a cool story that there's now, multiple congregations, but, super excited about having you guys in there. I think that's a beautiful thing for Beaverton.
Yeah, we hope so. And it feels the same. It's like, man, if we're not a plus again here, I don't know that we should be a church here. And so trying to be patient with that and take it one step at a time. And it's in little steps. We got to do something this last Christmas in partnership with DHS, and I had a large group of teens who often don't get a lot of love at Christmas, who were connected through, it was all connection through DHS. It's this thing called Merry and Bright. I know we learned about it from Table. They do it out in Hillsboro, and we just created this like evening of like, they got to shop for themselves. They got to get all these, our congregation put stuff together and put like this evening together, and Chick-fil-A dinner, just kind of this really fun evening. It was very humanizing and encouraging, and it was year one of, we have a long ways to go in building relationship with folks who are on those margins and are hurting, but it was a big first step for us just in the neighborhood to say, to all these families who are identified as in some significant hurt, to have a chance to kind of come in and be loved. And every church has its first moment that it takes that big swing. We had done some other stuff with DHS, but this was the first time we were able to host something that was relational, and that was pretty sweet. And so our people just loved the vision of it and got on board, and we just had somebody step into what we're called what are we calling it? It's like city engagement is what we're calling it. So it's not a staff role. It's probably going to be a diaconal role, but she's fantastic and is helping us just keep keep aware of everything that's going on in the city and try to help our people engage it meaningfully and steward opportunities to serve vulnerable folks. So, yeah, we got used to our outdoor friends popping in and getting donuts, and sometimes taking phone calls in the front row. Sometimes deciding that they want to have a try at piano. Like there's some sometimes having to swipe at a purse, but like I've watched our people just really love well, but also like grow in wisdom. Like what the guys on our safety team had to ask a gentleman to wait outside because he was wielding a sword, and said, "Hey, you can't bring that in here, but I would love to bring you some donuts and a coffee and some resources, to help you whatever needs to be next, but you can't bring your samurai sword."
Sword Sunday was last Sunday. You missed it. You can't bring it this Sunday.
Dude. And these are the kinds of things that we just missed out on when we were at a Christian high school. I think actually really season the saints to like be aware, especially in the suburbs. So like we're on the west side, it's suburban, it's a lot less piratey than the east side, right? And so what happens for suburbanite Christians is they get really used to like church being that place where I'm comfortable. And so a little bit of adventure, I think, is helpful for the heart of our people, and they've leaned into it well. But
that's so good. That's so good to hear. First of all, I mean, I love the way that you talk about your community of just like, just with the warmth and the kindness that you have for them, but then they exude together. So I've never been with Emmaus on a Sunday gathering, but just the way you describe it sounds like anyone could walk in at any time, which is what should be, I think. And that's. I wanted to circle back to something. You talked almost like you sounded like you might feel a little guilty in talking about some of the thoughts that go through your mind when you're thinking about moving. But I think it's really helpful for folks that are listening that are called to plant or thinking of planting, and there's a wonderful idealism of God providing a space when you're planting a church, but then that not necessarily being in a permanent place. And I guess I just wanted to note, there's not a question in here really, Matt, but just to note, like that's reality. And when you lead for long enough, you realize like you're not setting vision by saying, if we have this many people, then we'll survive because there'll be some attrition when we move. That's not vision, but it goes into planning because it is real. So you know that will happen, and I think that's not. So yeah, I was as you were sharing that, I was thinking, if I'm listening as a future church planter, and hopefully if you're planting a church, you have a healthy, God-given idealism that's still there, that don't lose all that.
Oh, for sure.
But these are lessons learned by veteran leaders and planters, and so that's because I think it's true. It's real.
Yeah, totally.
I think, Tim, you just said the words lessons learned, and I've been wanting to jump in with the question, Matt, about lessons learned. I mean, this is part 2 of your story, and so we know there's been some ups and some downs. And
talk a lot.
Right? And I mean, good night, you talk a lot. But seriously though, like
we're almost done.
When you think about your lessons that you've carried forward, like what are what are your favorite things that you're doing or that you are as a church right now that are the result of lessons won, the hard way? What are your favorite things that you're doing or that you are as a church?
Super good question. What early in the Emmaus story, the conviction for me was we have to build a healthy elder team, and there was this recognition that the previous iteration was handpicked and trained to do what happened. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't training, like there wasn't a formation process. Like you kind of get what you pay for. And I'd never been a part of a church that had really any intentional elder formation process. It was always kind of affinity of whoever was already an elder, or affinity of the lead guy or senior, whatever. Maybe it's folks who just give a lot or successful in business, but it just doesn't, none of the experience that I had in a church, and I had not served on an elder team in an elder capacity until I planted, but there was at least a sense from being on the inside that there's no rhyme or reason to what's happening. And that was also kind of true at Colossae, because I did watch how elders were added and learned from that, and then thought, well, this is pretty light. My best attempt was like, I'd sit down with a guy that I thought maybe matched the qualifications. I'd open up 1 Timothy 3, I'd read it, and I'd go, hey man, when you hear these words, does your heart beat faster and you think, I think that's me? Or do you read it and you go, thank God that's somebody else? Like, that was my test, which is actually a pretty good test. It's not a bad one to start. Because the first thing is you have to aspire to it, right? And that's a noble thing. But I do think that really quickly we learned that we have to think through what ends should frame our means. So if you want elders who have some theological complexity, who are emotionally mature, self-aware, others aware, are relationally healthy practices, have some working experience with discernment, and you have to kind of think through that. And so we began right away. I invited 9 folks to what we called an elder formation cohort, and we spent, I think it was 6 months or I can't remember how long. It was like twice a month, 6 months, 6 a.m. I'm like, let's make it a little bit hard. I threw a ton of reading at them. What'd they read? We started with Delighting in the Trinity by Michael Reeves. Tim, when you talk about that warmth and affection, that's just mirroring our God. He's the loving, affectionate, relational, triune God, and so I think I just really wanted our elders to have a vision of God as really good, and really understand the implications of the Trinity as good news. It's a little bit of so that is a little bit of here's a Trinitarian framing. Like everything else we're going to kind of tease out is going to be framed from a Trinitarian relational, affective theology. And so our downstream stuff, our missiology, our ecclesiology, all that stuff is downstream from our vision of who God is as a triune
it's really good
God of love. So we did that. I know we did a Scazzaro book, Emotionally Healthy Leader or Spirituality or Church or one of them, and they were all not very findable on Amazon, and it was, I don't know. I can't remember which one of them. They're all basically the same, and they're all really good. So just talked about the inner life, knowing your stuff, knowing your story, how it impacts you. I had them read a Peter Steinke book on how your congregation works. So it's the family systems kind of thinking on congregational life. I'm sure none of you have ever had an elder get caught in a triangulating passive-aggressive relationship, have you?
Nope.
No. So I was like, let's head that off at the pass.
Let's role play that right here.
Let's just role play it right now. So we.
That's really wise, by the way. That's
what.
That's just so wise. When you think elder training, we often always think of the content and the relational reality of sitting in that responsibility. That's so wise to just hold that up in front of them and go, let's go at it.
Let's go at it. Yeah. We did that. I can't remember. There's a book. I think Gospel Eldering by, I think the last name's Thune, and it's fine. I was just looking for something that got him in front of elder passages to wrestle with some stuff. There's thicker books, but we did Bible stuff, and we would do case studies. I mean, I just would drop things that had happened in ministry, right in their laps, and
so
go.
So you had them in this cohort. They're reading, and then there were 9 of them. How did that? What was like the selection process, or how did you get them from there to now you have elders?
Yeah, so we had started with, I brought in Jeff, who was a Tigard elder, and I brought in another guy, Jay, who was a Beaverton elder. I had another elder who left us almost as soon as we started. He just couldn't quite hang with the whole way we were handling COVID. So he ended up at a church that disregarded the state's requests and is happy there. I'll just tell you one of my favorite things was back then. He was really struggling. It was like, I just think this is medically invasive to have to wear a mask. And I just remember being like, well, the city already thinks we're insane. Like, they already think we're nuts, right? Like, for everything that we believe. I don't think we need to give them one more reason to be like, yeah, these people don't care about us at all. And I was like, so this isn't really about COVID. It's actually about mission. And he's like, well, it's just medically invasive. And I was like, can I point you to an example of what somebody was willing to do for mission in the New Testament? And let's talk about medically invasive. And Timothy getting circumcised so that he could go sauna with Jews. Don't start with me. Anyway, so he didn't stay.
But he said, no, Matt, I'm circumcised. I did that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm fine. I'm
good.
I don't have any confidence in that. Check. Anyway, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm funny, so I keep saying this. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's just stress relief because we all lived through the insanity of it. And we all had to deal with everyone on every side being angry. Yep.
Well,
it's the ends during. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems like you've approached things with a lot of intentionality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a beautiful thing because it's easy in church plant mode, which I feel oddly like our church lives in perpetual church plant mode, even though it's old. But in church plant mode, it's so easy to go you got these deadlines and we got, we're almost out of money and all this stuff that you feel. But it's cool to slow down on those things that are so important.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. And so we ended up with one guy out of that 9. So we put it in front of him and just said, we need you to discern and we'll discern. Most self-selected out. Some of that out of good self-awareness. I think the Lord spared us in a couple of moments, but almost everybody self-selected out except for a couple. Actually, we got 2 out of that first round. We picked one initially, and then 6 months later went back to another guy and said, okay, actually, yes. And it all had to do with engagement with the pillars and embodiment of the pillars too. There was one person who was in a community group and another guy who was he wasn't in community. And then over that 6 months, he engaged. And so we were just we weren't going to call somebody an elder that wasn't living what we were calling the church to. And then we ran it again, and another elder came out of that, out of another 5 guys. We're going to run it again. It'll be our 3rd iteration here, beginning in 2027. And so we have 3 non-staff elders, 3 lay elders, and 2 staff elders, and we're hoping to add another non-staff elder this year, and then who's somebody who's been through the cohort, and then another cohort. We'll just keep training too and going. It's not about a quota. It's just about forward thinking, and man, it may surface. It may just form great deacons. It may just help form great community group leaders, and it's okay. So.
So is that how you pitch it in a way, like, because if you go like, oh, 1 out of 9 is going to make this, it's kind of like, applying to Harvard or something, but like the people that aren't necessarily becoming elders, they know there's practical and spiritual value out of the journey.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you'll be a better dad, you'll be a better husband, like you'll think you'll be more self-aware and hopefully just a better shepherd of the people in your life. Yeah. So that I feel like that was a big learning. Just going like, you have to have a path. You have to have a pathway and some standards, and it has to be reproducible, and it can't be contingent on me. And there was another thing too. Like early on, everybody was like, "Well, what does Emmaus believe about this or that or another thing?" Which just inevitably meant everybody had to ask me.
Right.
Because I worked really hard to decenter myself by, again, like raising up elders so that I could submit to them and be an equal. And like, I have a certain job around teaching and vision, but I just don't go very far without all of us. So because their job is to yank me back into what we are all called to do. And so that is a difference from Colossae.
Yeah, dude. I wrote this word down. I've got it on a sticky note. This is going to stay with me. Decenter myself. That's a great phrase, man.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yep. And so we worked out, like there's some theological stuff that we worked out together, like 25 kind of convictions that we have that shape. They're like teaching positions or convictions on some cultural stuff and theological stuff. And we took another 6 months, and like I did the first draft, and then I submitted it to our elders, and then they worked it over, and then we invited some women staff and deacons into it, and some other folks into it, and it just became this thing that wasn't mine. And we wrestled over a couple things for a long time until we got to a place of clarity and articulation that we felt like, yep, this says what we believe the Bible says about this. And so now, rather than asking me what we think about something, we get to, there's a body of work, and it's our body of work. So those are all and there's some other works that we need to do to prepare the church to be institutionally healthy for a long time. But these are some of the things that we've had to do, and staff culture, reviews, some of those kinds of things. It's taken longer to get worked out, but. So having systems in place, processes in place, none of those things are sexy, but they keep you healthy.
They do. And
being sick isn't sexy. So, nobody wants to go to a sick church. So, and healthy things reproduce healthy things. And so we feel like the long, slow work of just having good ingredients and being really thoughtful about each step that we take, we're hoping is just seed for the future. I'll add this just as it relates to asking elders to embody what we want, or what we're calling the church to, is, my own life. There was like kind of this moment where I think the Lord was like, hey, you keep talking about the tell the story pillar, but you're not an example. Like, getting up and preaching every week is kind of a cop-out. So I was so busy with the church and so busy as a dad and as a husband that I didn't have any consistent friends that weren't believers. So, just personally, I felt like, man, every time I go to preach on this pillar, I don't think I'm as bold as I should be. I don't think I'm either or as wise as I should be. And so I went to one of my friends who owns a couple of tap houses, Wildwood Tap House, here on the west side, and I was like, I kind of work for you a couple days a week. It helped meet a financial need that we had at the time as a family, and it also kind of was, my hope was it would put me in a context where I could be incarnationally present with the same people week in and week out, because I just didn't live on my calendar in any kind of way, and so I've been doing this for a year and a half, 2 years. I pour beer Monday nights at Wildwood Tap House and Cedar Mill, and then Friday days, which is my day off as a pastor. So I get probably more time now with the same regulars than I do in a given week with people in my congregation. I'm accessible and available to my congregation, all the time, it feels like, but God's answered that prayer, and I have an opportunity to talk about the Lord a lot. People know I'm a pastor, or they don't know I'm a pastor. Actually, just the other day, somebody found out I was a pastor after I've been serving for a year and a half. This Israeli couple. This guy literally goes, "What's a pastor?" And they knew. There's a priest who's a regular there that I've become really good friends with. His name's Father Sean. He pastors St. Pius over here, and he and I prayed a lot together, and both feel like we're witnessing to the Lord together in this context. It's a whole other fun story, but we all prayed with each other before our Easter weekends. But they're like, "What is that, like a priest? But you're married, you have kids. Like, what's the deal?" And I was like, "Yeah, we get to do that." Anyway, so it's this fun thing where I get to translate the gospel through hospitality every week, and make space for people and listen and get to be their bar pastor. And it's been a pretty cool experience and transformative for me, and has enabled me to be a lot more, I think, bold with our congregation, but also from the humility of going, like, it helps me not be so weird or removed from what it feels like for everybody else in my congregation who works normal jobs with people who don't believe what they believe. And so it's sensitized me. It's, I think, really been a growing experience. I look forward to continuing that as like a way of helping me be a healthy pastor. So
that's amazing. I also just wrote down bar pastor. I thought that sounded cool. I got it on my sticky note right here.
Next career gear shift is like, Matt, that's such what a great opportunity. It's like I think a lot of pastors think, I need to go to seminary, which I think they do, but when you get several years under your belt, that's what happens is you find I really have to be intentional with my engagement with people who aren't a part of my church or aren't following Jesus, and not to mention just like you said, I got really busy. I work a lot in my role as a pastor, and so if you don't have those, I think you said it didn't show up on my calendar. Like I didn't have calendar spots, and so what a fantastic.
Which was another way of saying I didn't really value it.
Ouch! Yeah.
Which hurt. Like I did only aspirationally, and I think all the time, like, well, what happens if I don't do this? Like I got to find a way to continue to walk in relationship with folks that I've come to just love deeply. Yeah. And Jeff has our executive pastor. He's started doing it as well at the Tigard location. We have a handful of other people in the church that are also like on our team, and so like there's this little like pod of Emmaus folks who are just kind of sprinkled into this community, and it's fun. So
what an answer to prayer too. Like I mean that's the Spirit leading without a strategic plan. Like right, because you could sit down and like think, how are we going to engage with people who don't know Jesus? Where are we going to find them? How are we going to talk to them? How are we going to? And then all of a sudden you've got like you said, a pod or a crew of folks that are all following Jesus together as part of Emmaus, and you've got a mission field in that bar. Yeah,
totally. And the last thing I'll say about it is like I've cared a lot about like missiology for a long time, and I've had a lot of thoughts for a long time, and I've tried to help mobilize the church for a long time. But what I've been just finding joyful is going back to, again, like the delighting in the Trinity kind of Trinitarian incarnation, which is like, it's got to be relational. And so like for me, it has just been a joy to live out a relational presence that I was just deficient in me, in and with folks who are not churchgoers. So, and I think it's helped me think through like, man, this is way less about a big plan and way more about the formation of our people to be able to just be present and listen and know that the Lord's already at work in them, and like they don't have to have all the answers. Like it's actually, I think, helping me realize like how simple it is in so many ways. So.
Oh, that's so good. Man, Matt, thanks. Well, and again, just it's been good to get to know you, Matt, your story, your leadership, the Emmaus story, and then to be able to conclude with, as we had planned all along, a commercial for Wildwood Pub. And so,
yeah, 100%. And I would say, I'll add to that. If you are listening to this and you're in the Beaverton area and you're on the sidelines of ministry, get involved in a church, but we'd love to have you. Come be a part of what God's doing here. Or if you're just a little bit closer to Aloha, go be a part of what is happening in Gabe's church. They're going to need your help with this new building. So no, I don't know, or whatever the next thing is.
Whatever the next thing is,
you're going to need to edit that out. I'm so sorry. Go be a part of what Gabe's doing. Yeah, that wasn't recorded.
Good.
I'm a liability, and I'll own that. But I'll just
so
say,
good to have you.
In the Beaverton area. I'd love for you to be a part of what God's doing.
Yeah, good word. No, it's really, really good. Love that. One of the other words that I don't have. I need to get some Post-its. Gabe, I don't have any Post-its here, but can I have it? Okay, thanks. Just embodiment, you just said, if you're on the sidelines and you're not involved in a local church and you're in the Beaverton area, or wherever area you are and you're not engaged, that's part of what it means to embody our redemption in Jesus, our hope in Jesus is to be engaged in a local church. And so thank you for that call and that clarity, and thanks for your story and just your time and sharing so much with us. Really appreciate it and really encouraged by it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Jesus in the Upper Left. We want to ask you a quick favor. Would you please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and share with those that are in your life that might benefit from the content. Hit the notifications button, rate and review, of course, and then head on over to upperleftshow.com where you can find bonus content, opportunities to connect with those around the city that are doing similar work as you, resources to help you, and just a way to connect to the community. We hope to see you again next time.